Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So continuing on, someone in the comments suggested that we add drag and drop instead of this. So no problem. I'm going to put both of these so that you can use either. Okay, so let me align this a little bit. I don't like how it's going this way, and I'm not really sure what's going on here. So what I will do is, let me go to app views. That's courses tab, and this is intended learners. This is where our code is coming from. So in here, what I would do is, I just want to see what's going on. So I'll put a border here like so. That way it's clear where the div is ending. Okay, so this is what's happening. These guys have a bit of margin, but this one does not. So that's why it is like this. Okay. So what to do? Okay, so this one is a tag, that one is a tag. So maybe what we can do is, the information that's coming in here is coming from the where is this? The view. Okay, I'm getting lost here for a second. Okay, that's the admin section. Sorry about that. Courses view. Okay, so that's going to the JavaScript down here, which we have created. This is what contains that. So I want the input. Input of type. Wait, I'm confused. Oh, okay. So this is the div here that I wanted to. So let me add a class on the main div, and I want to add margin on the x-axis. So there's margin on the y. So maybe I should have just put M4 like this, which means margin all around 4 like that. Let's see how that will look. Okay, that went a bit too far. So what I would do is undo. Do this and put a different margin in the x-axis and put 2. So these are just classes I'm adding to the div that we created, which is the div that contains the input here and these 2 items. So let me refresh. Okay, we are close. So maybe let's put 1. I just want everything to align properly. Let's do that. Still looks a bit not there yet, but I think that's okay. I don't think we have a class for Bootstrap as a class that's smaller than this. So if you want, you can actually add styles. See here, instead of class list.add, you can actually put .style and then say equal to, right? You can say .set attribute like this. And then what attribute are you setting? You're setting the style attribute like this. So in case you want to add actual styles, and then you give it the value on this other side. So here I can say margin left, and let's put 5 pixels, and then let's do margin right as well, and put that 5 pixels as well. So you can put styles in here because you are adding an attribute called style and then to this particular div. So let's see how that will translate. Okay, 5 is too much. Let's reduce to 2 pixels and 2 pixels here. Let's see how that responds. Okay, I think it's close enough. Okay, great. So if you want, you can leave this border here. Once I add things like this, I'm adding to that. Okay, so maybe it helps to tell us where we're at, that this is one section. So maybe we'll leave it as that. And then let me make this button smaller. It's just a little bit too big for my liking. And then on top of that, there seems to be a, wait, wasn't there a break tag or something here? Maybe not. Let me put button small here like that to make it smaller. But I've sworn there was something. Oh, okay. So there's margin y, which is 4, this div here. Oh, not this one. Wait. What's going on here? Okay, it's this one, margin bottom 3. So at the bottom here, the reason it's leaving too much space between the button and these guys is because there's this margin bottom. So let's remove that so that this can move a bit closer. Let me see how that works. Okay, maybe a bit too close. Let's put 1 there instead, like so. And there we go. Okay, so you can take your time and design these things as you wish. That's up to you. And then here, since we're going to add a drag and drop, let's put one more. Let me go to the Bootstrap icons page here. I'll let it load for a while because my internet is always very slow. But then we'll add one here, so don't worry about that. Now, the important thing here to remember is let's see how we can delete. Let's add some functionality here. Let's start with the deleting of these guys, okay? So now these guys are arranged in a very specific order. So there's number 1, there's number 2, etc., etc. Now the problem is whatever this is intended learners. Where is this? Courses. This is where the content is coming from. This is in the courses view page. Now, this is an input and it's got a name, right? Name is required here. But the important thing is that we need to keep track of how many items are actually in here so that each name is unique. So we need to have a name. And then we need, because if these guys have the same name, let me show you this. If I just say the name is, let's call it, since this is for intended learners, let's call it that, okay? So we add that name to the input, okay? Let's add that name. The problem is this is one name. And when we try to save this content, we're going to find ourselves in problems because actually no, this is not going to be an issue because we are using JavaScript to actually save the data. So maybe we can just leave that name there. We don't even need the name. We can just grab our inputs from this div, which is, have we given it a name? Okay, so the divs we are adding are going in here, which is JS students learn. Okay, so that's what we should have called that input, students learn. It's not intended learners, it's what will students learn. I was confused there a little bit, so I can give it that name. But actually, like I said, names don't matter here because we are going to use JavaScript to save this as we are doing with the other pages, right? So names don't matter. We are just going to arrange them in a specific order. Whatever comes first will be given number 1, whatever comes second, number 2, just like that. But we can leave that name there just for the sake of it. And then one more thing you will notice is that if now, let me refresh this. If now I add more of these items and add, let's try to add some data. Oh, okay. So when we add data, the save button comes back and it warns us not to go away. But if we just add these guys like this, it doesn't, which I think is fine, because if we don't add anything new, then there's nothing to actually save, even though we add these. So I think this works just fine. And so when we finally finish and we want to save this part, depending on what's happening on the tab, it should grab this information. Okay, so this is fine. Let's deal with the delete. And it's the function we'll use is element.remove. So I just need to know what, I just need to grab the actual item here that I want to remove. So keep in mind that this whole div that holds the input is what we need to remove. In order to remove, we just don't want to remove the input itself. but this whole div and the delete and all these buttons that come with it. So that means we have to remove this item here. So in order to get to that item, this item has a class of JS input, right? Right there. So we know once we get to something that has JS input, that's the culprit. So here what I would do is, if I go to the delete, which is this one, JS student delete. Okay. Wait, this is the class. Okay, so when this is clicked, something should happen. We should know what we have clicked. Okay, so maybe what we do is let's just put directly an Unclick Listener. Now there are two ways to add Unclick Listeners. You can add them directly here as part of the HTML, or you can do add event listener. When the things load down here, then you run an add event listener to look through every item in here and then add an event listener. That is the most the advanced way to do it, but this is easier. What we want to do here, let's just add the Unclick right here. Let me just do this and say Unclick and say alert, just so we can see that it's working. And then let me grab this one on the move up and move down and do exactly the same. Let me copy these guys, put here and paste. And then inside here, I will put up and down, right? Let's just put up and down so that we know exactly what we are doing. And then this one should be delete. So let's see if this actually works. So let me click here and it actually works. There's delete there. Click here, it says up. Click here, it says down. So things are working as intended. That's nice. The only thing now is we need to call actual functions to do these things. So for the delete, for example, anyway, in any of these cases, once we click on these guys, then we can try to grab this item. So what we can do, for example, here, this is what was clicked, right? So if this was clicked, all I can do is ask, what is the parent of this item? And the parent is this one. And I can check if it has the JS input within it. And then if it has, then that's the item I'm looking for. Then we can remove it. Same thing here. Though the difference here is that once I say Unclick and this is up, right? This one is up, then I'll have to say, what is the parent of this one? Now in this case, it's different because there's this parent here, and then we'll have to get the parent of this one and then get the parent of that as well. Now, as you can see, this gets a little bit complex. What if in future we edit what we are doing here, right? Let me say I rearrange the order. I decide, let me move these items into this div and move that one into there. Then the whole thing breaks apart because now the order of parenting is different for me to get to this item here. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to set an attribute. Okay. So let's set an attribute instead. What I want is for this div itself to have an Unclick Listener, right? And then only respond. Once something is clicked, it should respond from here. But then it should check, does this item have this class here? Or does it have that class there? Okay. And then if it does, then we know that that's what we should do. If it has this class, then that's delete. If we have this class, then etc. Now, an easier way, instead of looking for classes, we can put IDs. IDs are much easier to handle in this situation. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's add an attribute here. Which one? The attribute is going to be an Unclick Listener. Okay, like this. So let me remove all these Unclicks here. I was just showing you that you can do it this way. It would still work. The only problem is this is not so uniform. I want a system where even though I rearrange these things here, each one of them has an ID so we can still target it. So I'll put an Unclick Listener, and in there, I'm just going to say alert That's what I want. Just alert there, and we done. Let's see. Okay, so back here, let's see if that actually works. Okay, so you see it can actually work. Anywhere I click in here, it actually responds. Okay, this is nice. Anywhere here, it will respond. Cool. So the only thing we have to ask now is which button was clicked? What ID does it have? So I'm going to grab this and remove it. I think it's easier to deal with IDs in this case than classes. We will have more code for classes. So what I'll do is I'll put an ID here like this and put that there. And same thing here. I will move that and put an ID. Okay. Now, I had a debate in the past, somebody saying IDs must be unique on the page. Yes, ideally they're supposed to be unique on a page, but this is no longer 1965, where browsers were a little bit more stupid than they are now. They can handle similar IDs. So what I mean here is that you see this item has students learn delete, right? If we add another version of this, which we will do when we click add here, which means there'll be two items on this page which have exactly the same ID. But that's not a problem because of the way we're going to be searching. We're going to be searching per div. We're not going to search in the document looking for this item. No, we're going to search only in this particular div and look for this item. So we are still going to find exactly what we are looking for. All right. And then on top of that, let's see, the item that will respond is this one. The Unclick Listener is on the div itself. This is important. That's why I added it here. It's very important because this same item that has responded is the item that we're trying to remove. Okay. So now to show you that it can tell us exactly what we have clicked. So I'll say alert. But then I will say in the alert here on the Unclick Listener, we can put an event in there. So I'm just going to say event, right? I want to display something. The event itself dot current target. Oh no, actually current target is this item here, but just target is whatever was clicked. Okay, so they're two different. There's one called current target. So regardless what I click here, as long as it's inside this, which has an Unclick Listener, it will respond. But then the current target will always be the thing that has the event itself. But if I say event.target, it's whatever was clicked. So sometimes that can be a bit confusing, but we'll know. And then I'll say .id like that. Okay. So the event, which is what ran, .target, which is what was clicked, .its ID. So let's see here. So let me refresh again. Now if I click, there's no ID for this, which is understood. If I click on this, no ID. What about on the thingy itself? You see there we get students learn delete. So now we know that's a valid button. And then if I click on this one, there's up. And if I click this one, there's down. So now we can tell it to only respond when there's a proper ID and we recognize it. Okay, that way we kill several birds with half a stone. Alrighty then. So now instead of putting the ID on this, I want this whole div to be the thing that triggers the delete. So I'll just move the ID to that particular item. Boom. Then this is what will trigger the delete. So you can just move the IDs around to the item that you want to trigger the particular action, and that will work. So this is a much, much better system. As you can see there, now we have that, now we have that. So all we need to do now is to give it some functionality, right? So real quick here, what I'll do is I'll put a function here, which we're going to call, I'll say function. This function should only work. This is for add new, right? These things have to be very specific for intended learners tab, right? So we need to find a way to name these things so that they're very particular to a particular tab, right? So I'll leave it like that for now. Once we add another add new function, then we can rename this one accordingly. So I'll say function and say, I don't know what to even call this function. Let's say students learn, let's call it this, because it's for that particular tab, right? Or let's do this. We'll just call it intended, because that's the entire tab. Intended learners tab action, something like it. It's quite long, but I think it helps in the long run when you describe what you're really doing like this. And then here we'll just put a particular action like so. And then we'll ask ourselves if action is equal to a very specific action here. In this case, for example, students learn delete, right? So if action is equal to that, then let's just alert ourselves and say this is a delete action like so. And then let's put an else and repeat the if. Oop. What have I done? What have I done? Control Shift D, Control Shift D, and then I remove the else at the end. So here, instead of delete, we have student learn delete, student learn move up, move down. So copy that, and let me change the delete to move up, and let me copy that, and let me change this one to move down. Great. And just like that, we are good to go. So here I'll just copy this function and just tell it to run this function instead of the alert. I'll paste, and then the ID is the intended action, right? Great. So let me refresh now and let's see if things are working. So if I click anywhere now, it doesn't seem to respond until I click there. Delete, great. Click, move up, great. Click, move down. Awesome. Now if I open another one, let's see if that works as well. That works. That works as well. Great. Now as you can see, if I click on the icon itself, it doesn't work. But like I said, we can put two IDs in the same page, no problem. Let me just put that ID there, because the purpose that we're using it does not require that the ID is unique. So let me refresh. Let's try that. I'll click on the delete itself. Great. Click on this. It works. Very cool. Now if I add some more items, let me make sure that each one of them actually works. Good. And this one works. Good. This one works. Good. So for the delete itself, this is easy to do. All I can do is right here where we are loading this, we have event.target.id. Now, instead of just getting the event.target.id, let's just load the entire event, because then we can get more things from it. So here I'll just say E, and then here I will say var action is equal to that E we've sent dot target dot ID. Okay, so we get the same result, but at the same time we still have the event. That way we can use it on the delete. So on the delete, we're just going to say E dot current target, which is the item that responded, dot we want to remove it. So we go to its parent. So we go to say parent node. Wait, do we need that? It's just element.remove, right? Let's try that. Let's see if that works. E.currentTarget.remove. Okay, no questions asked. Let's just add, and then boom, removed, boom, removed, boom. Look at that. Very cool. All right, so let's continue in the next video.